From a math tutor who blamed the devil's lettuce, to a retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel getting 10 years in prison, here are the 5 most satisfying karma moments in Hansen vs. Predator history. Starting with Mike Manzi from the 2015 Connecticut Sting, who learned that having an excuse and having a good excuse are 2 very different things. Manzi was a 32-year-old math tutor, and when he showed up to meet with what he thought was a 12-year-old girl, he was probably feeling pretty confident about his chances. He'd been discussing the meetup, talking about what they do together, and making it very clear this wasn't helping with homework. So when Chris Hansen walked in and started going through his chat logs, things got uncomfortable.
I need to talk to you. Well, what are you doing here today?
Manzi knew he needed an explanation fast. When pressed about why he drove all the way to Fairfield to meet a child, Manzi came up with a defense that was worse than anything you could imagine.
Well, I'm here because I was slightly concerned.
Concerned about what?
Well, concerned because she's talking to people that are a lot older on the website.
He claimed he only wanted to be a good Samaritan, looking out for a 12-year-old because he was concerned about her talking to older men. He also brought some of that devil's lettuce.
Now, why were you so concerned about a 13-year-old girl?
Well, she's talking to other people that are obviously the same age as me.
And how old are you?
I'm 32.
You're 32?
Yes.
So you came over to make sure she was okay?
Well, I came over just to make sure that
everything was fine.
That's right. A 32-year-old math tutor's defense was that he just really wanted to look out for her, because apparently that sounded better to him than admitting the truth or just saying he was there to tutor her, you know, in line with his profession. Hansen's reaction said it all. You can see him visibly struggling to even respond to something that stupid. But if you think Manzi's terrible excuse would lead him to serious prison time, you'd be wrong. Because his chat logs were less explicitly sexual than other predators, his charges got reduced. He actually avoided jail completely. So he got away with it, right? Not quite. While Manzi escaped handcuffs, he couldn't escape the consequences that actually mattered. He was immediately fired from his tutoring job and forced to work retail instead. His entire career working with children, the thing he built his life around, was destroyed. Now, this wasn't the only Predator in Hansen vs. Predator who thought he could talk his way out of trouble. The next one was even worse. Jeff Sokol was a 44-year-old insurance auditor from Brookline, Massachusetts. UMass Amherst graduate, successful career, and apparently the kind of guy who thought he was the smartest person in any room he walked into. In his chat logs with a decoy posing as a 13-year-old girl, Sokol had a plan. A very sinister one. He talked about creating a fraudulent marriage contract that would somehow make having intercourse with a child legal. And when the day came, Sokol drove 2.5 hours from Boston to Fairland, bringing a pizza, vodka, and orange juice.
That's a long drive.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry, I'm really nervous.
Oh, you gonna give me a hug?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
The combination of OJ and pizza should have already landed him in jail on itself. When Chris Hansen walked into that kitchen, something incredible happened.
Who's this? I'll get to that in a minute. Who are you?
Sokol didn't even panic in the slightest. He just looked up at Hansen mid-bite and asked if he wanted a slice.
You want a slice?
I'm good, thank you very much.
That's right. This guy was so confident in his ability to talk his way out of that situation that he offered Chris Hansen a piece of pizza.
Who are you?
To come here.
Are you her dad?
He even asked Chris Hansen if he's the father to the child, still playing dumb. When Hansen started reading through his explicit chat messages, Sokol's response was pure arrogance, deflecting any question thrown his way.
And then you say, do you trim your blank?
Okay.
But Sokol's arrogance was about to meet the American justice system, and the justice system doesn't care about your pizza. When the case went to trial, Sokol's lawyers somehow thought the best defense strategy was to argue that the age of consent was lower 100 years ago. The judge was visibly disgusted. Sokol went through 3 different attorneys trying to fight the charges, and when Sokol was finally convicted of attempted second-degree sexual assault, he got 30 months in prison. But the karma didn't stop there. In 2018, Sokol was denied parole. While incarcerated, he lost recreation privileges for disobeying a guard. And in a last-ditch effort to escape his reputation, he tried to legally change his name to Sony Derek Porter. The request was denied, leaving him with the same name he ruined himself. While Sokol learned that you can't talk your way out of consequences, Jerry Hetherington was about to learn that you definitely can't run from them either. He was a 47-year-old unemployed man from Monroe, Michigan, and in 2022, he became the star of one of the most action-packed and satisfying takedowns in Chris Hansen history. Hetherington had been chatting online with who we thought was a 14-year-old boy, and the chat logs? Absolutely vile. He discussed in explicit detail his plans to build a glory hole at his house, specifically for this child.
He has a glory hole set up. He wants.
And that's how Glory Hole Jerry earned his nickname. So when Hetherington showed up to the Sting house, Chris Hansen was ready and not for the glory hole.
So what are you up to tonight?
Not much.
What's your plan?
Just meeting him.
Meeting who?
Him.
Who is it?
Travis.
Hansen sat down with him and methodically started reading through the chat logs. Every disgusting message, every graphic detail about the glory hole, every plan Hetherington had made.
And what about all this talk about a glory hole and wanting the boy to come to you for sex? You talk about deep-throating him, that you'd swallow.
And you can see Hetherington squirming in his seat, getting more uncomfortable by the second. Then suddenly, he started complaining about back pain. How convenient. Hansen looked at him and made it very clear he was not allowed to leave. But Hetherington had already made his decision. Despite the warning, despite Chris Hansen sitting right in front of him, despite knowing he was being filmed, he bolted. And that's when the Viper Task Force showed him exactly why running is a terrible idea. They violently slammed him to the ground like he was trying to escape a maximum security prison. It was pathetic, humiliating, and it was exactly what he deserved. But the karma wasn't finished yet. Because when Hetherington was taken to jail and processed, the officers put him in a holding cell. And guess who his cellmate was? Matthew Daly, another predator from his own neighborhood who had been caught the exact same day at the exact same sting operation. So not only did Glory Hole Jerry get violently tackled and arrested on camera, he had to spend the night in a cell explaining to his neighbor how they both ended up there, without any materials to build a glory hole. And if that doesn't sound awful enough, the next predator had the most disturbing intentions imaginable. Stephen Buchanan was a 27-year-old of the Connecticut National Guard, an Iraq war veteran, a youth coach at Sterling House Community Center, working directly with children. He was number 100 on the Stratford Police Department hiring list, just waiting for his chance to become a cop. With a resume like that, you'd think Buchanan was one of the good guys, but his chat log told a very different story. Buchanan had not been talking to one, but two decoys posing as 13-year-old girls. He sent explicit texts, graphic videos, and made plans to meet up for obscene performances. But that's where things got dark. Really dark.
You want me to show you around?
Just be driving around, you know?
Trust me, I'm not serious.
When Buchanan arrived at the Fairfield Sting House in 2015, he refused to go inside. Instead, he kept trying to lure the decoy out to his car, again and again.
What if I took you to an empty parking lot and tell you to drive?
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Would you like that?
I don't know.
He pressured her to come outside. And when the police finally arrested him and searched his vehicle, they understood exactly why. Inside Buchanan's car, they found a loaded handgun, a roll of duct tape, a knife, a camera, and a box of condoms. It looks like Buchanan wasn't planning to do the things he was talking about in the chat room. This looked like he was planning to do something much worse. Buchanan had an excuse ready. When confronted about his actions, he played the sympathy card, talking about how he was still suffering PTSD from combat in Iraq, blaming his predatory behavior on trauma from serving his country.
Something just goes off inside of my head.
Did you have these thoughts before you were in Iraq?
No.
It might have worked, except for one small problem. A member of Buchanan's actual unit saw the case and exposed him on Reddit. The judge wasn't impressed either. Buchanan's bond was set at $1.5 million, the highest of anyone arrested in the Fairfield sting. He was immediately removed from the Stratford Police Department hiring list, fired from his youth coaching position, and his girlfriend left him. When his case went to trial, Buchanan was sentenced to 8 years in prison with 3 years to serve. At sentencing, Buchanan actually thanked the detectives for arresting him, stating, "Because of you, I am still here on this planet today." You know what I mean. Like he was the victim in all of this. He was released in January 2019 and now lives with his parents, a registered sex offender, a man who wanted to be a police officer, worked with children, and carried a loaded gun and duct tape to meet a 13-year-old. Although Buchanan's fall from aspiring cop to registered sex offender was satisfying, the most devastating karma in Hansen vs. Predator history was reserved for someone who had already reached the top of his profession. Michael Popovich was a 55-year-old retired United States Marine Corps lieutenant colonel living in Virginia Beach, Virginia, a decorated officer who had spent decades climbing the ranks of one of America's most respected institutions, a man who had taken an oath to protect and defend. And in August 2015, he started chatting online with who we thought was a minor. The chats went on for months: August, September, October, November. He had explicit conversations, sent sexually explicit messages to the decoy, videos, and in some of those materials, he included photos of himself in his Marine dress uniform. That's right. A lieutenant colonel in the United States Marine Corps used his military uniform, the same uniform that represents honor, courage, and commitment, to sexually exploit what he thought was a child. But here's the thing about Michael Popovich. He actually never traveled to Fairland, Connecticut. He stayed safe in Virginia Beach, probably thinking that distance would protect himself for not following through with it. Little did Popovich know, Fairland police were coordinating with Virginia Beach PD the entire time. And one day, Virginia Beach officers showed up at his door, and it was over. He was arrested and extradited to Connecticut to face charges. On September 7, 2016, Popovich was convicted by Circuit Court Judge William R. O'Brien on 2 felony counts of using electronic means for procuring minors for obscene material. And then came the sentencing. Judge O'Brien looked at this lieutenant colonel and handed down a sentence of 20 years in prison with 10 years suspended. That meant Michael Popovich would spend 10 years behind bars, the longest sentence in Hansen vs. Predator history, and is still nowhere near long enough. But the consequences didn't stop at prison time. Popovich's military pension was suspended during his incarceration. He was required to undergo sex offender treatment, anger management, routine polygraph tests. And still, after serving, his pension was reinstated as his crime did not involve disloyalty to the United States. It was resumed in full.